Canada's Drag Race is still on a high and I am living. Hi, hello everyone, welcome in. My name is Jer, and for your information, Daisy, I did lose my virginity. I swear to God, if anybody knows what I am quoting and answers it without using Google, I will wear whatever color you want in the next Canada's Drag Race video. That's such a deep cut, I don't think y'all would even figure it out. Last week on Canada's Drag Race was a great time, and it is about to get spicier. We're seeing interpersonal relationships butting up between the cast. We're seeing certain drama from last week getting squashed. And the show says goodbye to a contestant that a lot of y'all were very deeply standing. In probably one of the wackiest lip syncs I have ever seen on Drag Race, this season is not disappointing me at all. And to clarify from a stupid comment I got last week, I'm a top, you shady. This week is getting spicier because the Golden Beaver is back. Can I just say I love the Golden Beaver? Miss Golden Beaver, baby, Miss Golden Beaver. I enjoy that Canada's Drag Race was the progenitor of this kind of twist because we've seen Drag Race España pull their own version of this and have their own solution to it, which was the heart piece that you give, your inheritance. We saw in Drag Race UK Season 7, they had the Lucky Cow, which was just the one episode. I would have loved if they did more than the one. But in any case, the Golden Beaver is that girl, and I'm so glad that Canada's Drag Race is retaining this format. Charisma is pinnacle this season. Ebony is giving me the best talking heads, and I am low-key obsessed with just about everything that she says. She is such levels of ferocity. And we get a little moment between Van Gogh and Dulce from last week resolving itself that Van Gogh tries to repair the bridge. And just from my own slight interactions with Van Gogh online, they're an incredibly sweet human being, really kind to their fans. Carson is introduced to us this week as a recurring judge. I mentioned last week I'm kind of bummed that we don't get Brad because I love Brad a lot, but I'm also not mad that Carson is here. I think objectively of the US judges, he's got some better feedback than people like the hilarious Ross Matthews. We do not have a mini challenge this week, and Carson announces that the maxi is going to be an acting challenge where in groups of 4, they'll have to present a cruise line commercial. This is a fun prompt, and I like the idea of this. We haven't seen a cruise line commercial. Typically, we see branding challenges, the non-personal kind, where they have to pitch something very early in the season. This, to me, was very reminiscent of the All Queens Go to Heaven branding challenge they had to do in season, 15? This was very similar in concept to that. I just think that these early acting challenges are so difficult because there's a lot to cram in, but it creates drama at the beginning of the season and creates some tension because there are people that are not good at these types of activities, and so we see their stress levels arise early, which I think can sometimes be good for forcing out story drama. From a television perspective, at least. And oh boy, was there drama. It got so spicy this week that I was like, Canada's Drag Race is so back. And Van Gogh, thank you for stirring that pot, even if you didn't mean to. I live for the chaos. What I was confused about with the team assignment is that Van Gogh did not have any type of agency in choosing the teams first, or at least choosing who they wanted to work with. Typically, when someone wins a challenge the week before, they will get, especially in an acting challenge, the opportunity to assign their group and then everyone else free-for-alls, or they get to assign their group as well as the others. So I was kind of confused why Van Gogh didn't get to choose their team first. Last note about Carson being here is that this was actually a really great opportunity for him to assign a challenge. He's never gotten to do that as far as I know. It's always been with Rue if he's been in the room. And on set, I think he was okay. I definitely think he was leaning into what he's used to with the American production team, where you kind of just let the girls fail if they fail. Typically, Brad or Tracy would have tried to reel in the girls if they didn't like what they saw. They would try and rescue them from the waters and go, hey, so that didn't work. Let's try it that way. Let's specifically do it this way. I'm getting a concept of what you're doing, but let's refine that. Let's rework it. Where Carson, from what we saw, was kind of just like, you sure you want that? Okay. It didn't have the same type of caretaking that we normally see from Canada's Drag Race. On one hand, I kind of like the mess, but on the other hand, I like that the mainline judges tend to feel like supportive parents in those situations where they're like, we want a good show, so let's make it good. This was very US type of directing. For this challenge, there are 3 themes: singles at sea, where any rose can find their Jack or their Jane. So you're trying to pitch love. It's a love cruise. And of course, the presentation of this was pitched as, we're gonna go cruising. So I appreciate the idea of this group wanting to go for something sexy, something a little more salacious, because like, cruising. They could have probably accomplished that by incorporating hankies, but I think that this was an okay prompt. I don't think I would have wanted it necessarily, but if I got it, I could have worked with it. There's the Self-Care Sisters, which is all about spirituality. To me, this is kind of booger. I think the team did well with it, but spirituality is really hard to navigate, I think, in any type of drag space because it's kind of a touchy subject. So either you lean really hard into the crazy religious side of it. Hi, I'm Patty Patterson and I'm your cruise liner and I'm here to tell you about Jesus. And then everyone there is just fanatic about Jesus. Like, unless you go in that direction, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, imagine Uma in this challenge. This would have been great for the last season. And then that alien challenge would have been so much better with this group because we would have had PM. Damn. What was I saying? This concept was booger. I would never have wanted the spirituality cruise. And then the last one is called Golden Gaze, obvious rip off of Golden Girls. But as we know, and anyone who's ever watched Drag Race ever, if you try to do Golden Girls, you are basically dooming yourself to go home. So this was a rough theme, but it is something you could play with if you went the right direction. The aging twink who is trying to go on a cruise and have a good time. This had a lot of potential. I would have wanted to work with this one, despite the Golden Girls curse. There is some tension with Velma wanting to storyboard and wanting to kind of keep the reins tight on things. I worry that she might struggle with having fun in the competition. That could have a lot more to do with the language barrier than she even let on. She implies later on in the episode that she is struggling to kind of keep up with everybody's English, and when too many people are talking, she can't understand what everybody's saying, so she's kind of got to silence the room to be like, what are we saying right now so that I can process? I get that. I don't speak a second language fluently, but I could imagine that if I was hearing multiple people talking in a language I didn't know, I would probably have a very hard time having fun as well, because I was just trying to keep up with the speed of the room. I hope that she's able to find her footing and her pacing, and that the room can kind of accommodate where she's at and how to get her to the next stage of the competition, because I think she's got it. During recording, I think it was Hazel saying, they're definitely gonna fight after this. That was so funny to me. Before we talk about the challenge on the runways, I want to talk about Brooklyn Heights, who looked so sexy on the runway. This tattoo MILF, this tight latex bodysuit, she looked wet. Ugh, I kind of wish there were even more tattoos everywhere, but goddamn, she looked good. And Tracy Melchor. I stan Tracy Melchor severely. That's diva. She is my favorite Michelle archetype, I think. Probably right next to Kiara. Although I do love Anna Loking. Cariño. So let's talk about the challenge and the runway theme, which is in the shadows. As a looser themed concept, I was expecting something dark. I was expecting something more in the vein of Shake, Rattle, and Rampa, Drag Race Philippines Season 1, Day of the Beast, Drag Race España Season 2. Things of that nature, something that was a little scary or a little monstrous-like. Some really knocked it out of the park, and others were a bit of a So we get to see these commercials. Group 1 is Ebony, Hazel, PM, and Paolo. Ebony is the narrator of this group. I think this was an extremely strong choice. She's charismatic as hell. She's got a fantastic personality. She owns her space. I thought she was extremely strong as the narrator, and I wanted to hear more of what she had to say. On the runway, she is presenting her inner saboteur. I liked the idea of this gothic glam, but I did want to see it punched up a little bit, especially since that performance was so solid. I wanted to see her high this week. I'm a big fan of sheer dresses with sparkle underneath, so that all worked for me. And she says that she was trying to let the other girls be monsters because look at their mugs. Oh, I love her. She has so much personality and so much presence. I love the way that she presents things. I just think with the rest of this group pushing so hard and giving like 500% every single week, anything that would normally be great on a Drag Race runway sort of pales in comparison because everyone else is going so hard and I'm rooting for her. That being said, it was a very soft slay. PM was the resident goonologist. Boy, were they gooning. Honestly, if I was near that pit crew dude with the big titties, I'd probably want to get on my knees near him too. I thought they were really funny, but the segment was short, so I didn't get a good grasp of who PM was supposed to be in this lineup. The group's theme is about singles at sea, so I don't mind that there's someone horny there. It very much works in the perspective that PM has already presented, but I just feel like being on your knees and biting bananas is something we've seen before in these types of challenges. I wanted something more. On the runway, they are inspired by their partner's nightmares. They are a sleep paralysis demon. Yo, this was very terrifying. The red teeth was a great aesthetic choice. Definitely hit the brief. I love the textures of what looked like tulle on top of pleather. It was scary, it was avant-garde. I love that the makeup even went along with the look. Super, super slay. Hazel is playing someone named Foxy Doxy. Please. Their hair being messy and in their face often was a bit of a distraction to me, and I think that pulled the performance down, but I liked their presence. I don't want to be all Max about this, like it was so raunchy. I really didn't think that the problem was the raunchiness of the commercial. Drag queens are not meant to be Mickey Mouse Club sanitized, but think about the children type of a vibe. Like, I get the perspective of sexy singles on a sexy cruise ship doing sexy stuff. I think the problem was that Hazel looked disconnected in the challenge, and very likely because she already sensed that it wasn't going very well, and sometimes when you're already realizing this is not good, it's kind of hard to hide the disconnect in your eyes, and then the hair in front of the face just brings the performance down again, which I think is doubly upsetting because on the runway, holy smokes, this did it for me. She is presenting a witchy kelpie, which is a Scottish horse shapeshifter, and I thought this was really fucking cool. I love the distressed, almost fringe of this costume. The mohawk was cool. I loved the mask and how it split, and they were individual teeth in each one of those spots. That is a lot of work and detail to make a mask like that, and that there were ridges of the teeth. Also very cool. It was oddly sensual, but I'm also a monster fucker, so. And I love the trotting because it was a stellar performance down the runway. Total slay. Do I understand her bottom placement? Yes. Do I like it? No. And then Paolo in this group is presenting a character with an extremely high voice. This is kind of a kiss of death on Drag Race. I don't know why people are still doing high-pitched voices in a challenge. If you're going to change your voice on Drag Race, either you need to go lower or purposefully slur some of your words. And with such a short segment like what this commercial was, you cannot afford to not articulate everything perfectly. Every moment has to count, and I fear that none of them did. On the runway, she is wearing a literal trash bag because people have told her that she could wear a trash bag and she'd look beautiful. This is a common misconception that people say all the time. You could wear a diaper, you could wear a trash bag, you'll look great. But should you? This was wildly off topic to me. That biblically accurate angel last week could have been this, and the garbage could have been last week. Imagine the category is more. You cannot get eliminated, and you come out with garbage and slowly drop tons of trash on the runway, like custom made trash, and then deliver a baby. Both of these runways should have been swapped. Come on, a biblically accurate, beautiful angel would have been perfect for this, even if it was a little light for the challenge. I liked the camp of things falling out, and I think Paolo is a weirdo. I just don't think we got to see enough of that. They really seemed to only open up to Ebony, and I'm glad that she had someone in her camp, but it's upsetting that we as the audience, I don't think got enough of that. For me, the look was a chop. Group 2 are the self-care sisters. I'm gonna start out by saying that I think the concept was great, that it is a self-care cruise that is secretly a cult. Come and join our cult cruise, and let me tell you about all the people who have willingly stayed here. That was such a great idea, but then it suddenly veers to another direction, and all the stories that we're getting are not about being locked in a cult. It made me wonder what happened and how they ended up getting lost along the way. Because I would think with a cult that you would show someone who's sort of fearfully staring at the camera like, yes, I absolutely love our cruise director. They're great, and I love being here. I gave up all my worldly possessions to be here. Now I have no money, but you know what I have? Yay, Jesus. something a little more in that vein, but maybe that would get tiresome after a while. I also liked the B plot of this wellness health cruise actually being somewhere where people are not being taken care of. Someone has an addiction to cigarettes and they have a problem, but they're just told, suck it up, deal with it. Someone who's really stressed and then a gong is hit and they're suddenly mesmerized and don't remember that they're stressed anymore. Like, the ideas I think were there, but when it actually got manifested, there was a lot of confusion between the A plot and the B plot, and I think somewhere the storyboarding got lost. Saltina is our cruise director, and I loved her energy. I completely understood her top placement because she held that group together, in my opinion. She was giving me full TikTok influencer, which is hilarious because she kind of is. And I loved the way that she was present in just about every scene. Like, those girls handed the win to Saltina. On the runway, she's staring her inner demons in the face, doing commentary on a bodily trauma that she experienced when she was younger. I think it takes a lot of bravery to do something like this on Drag Race, expose something that happened to you and willingly talk about it, share your scars and find the beauty in those. I liked the simplicity of the look because I always am here for a clean garment. It just, for me, didn't quite hit the brief. After she explained it, I got it. I think there's something to say about your inner darkness presenting itself through scars and through trauma. I think it just needed one extra little punch somewhere on the costume that brought it to that next place, because it was missing a little bit of the story during the presentation. But overall, it was a very soft slay. Velma in the challenge very much confused me. She was someone who was really stressed out and was about to die, but then she wasn't. Again, I think the B plot of this entire group lost the plot. And I think I understand the high placement only because of the runway where they are presenting a drag king look. Ooh, this buff leather daddy was quite literally something we have never seen on Drag Race ever. We've seen a lot of drag monsters. Like, one of the most iconic to me is Charity Case, who has done drag that is on the alternative side and a little more gender ambiguous, but we have never seen a full commitment to the drag kingery like this one did, other than what Victoria Scone did in season 1 of Canada vs. the World. But even that was a very drag king light look. The mullet was hot. The presentation was hot. I loved the performance and the walk and the fur that was everywhere, the way that it was bursting out of the seams. One thing I commented pretty heavily on with a lot of the werewolf looks in the Dragula House Party episode was that a lot of the costumes didn't have that I just burst into my werewolf form and now my clothes are tearing type of a essence to them. And that's what this look had. All those details were right. And I think this runway more than anything proves that drag kings have a space on Drag Race. It just is going to take someone daring enough to allow this to happen in the mainline season. But hopefully Velma's presence here opens the door for more inclusivity in Drag Race, because what does it need to be a drag queen winning? Why can't it just be the best drag performer win? Major slay. In the challenge, Van Gogh is getting stretched out by the pit crew. Again, I would want them to stretch me out. I loved her saying that she needed to bevel for Brooke. Same as I thought with Velma. I thought it was off topic from the cult idea. I didn't get how it tied in, but I understood how it connected to a wellness cruise that isn't actually a wellness cruise. And on the runway, I'm gonna say this is one of my favorite looks of the entire night, hands down. This black pink two-faced teddy bear was so Sid's Workshop to me. It was a gag and literally one of the best ways that they could have opened up this runway. The patchwork and the fusion was so immaculate. There are details in there that if you pause, really look at it and scale, on one side is a broken heart piece, very much in the shape of like Operation. And then on the other side is a full heart. There are different kinds of furs and patchworks present on both, as if these were literally two bears that were fused together in one horrific creature. It was a jaw drop moment. Like, this is fashion mixed with drag. I'm obsessed. Major slay. And last in this group is Sammy, who's a woman who's addicted to cigarettes. Sounds like a typecast. Her voice was insanely funny, and I was surprised that she did not get more positive feedback about that whack-ass voice, because it was so hilarious. But I didn't understand why she was in her last breath either. I think if it was a wellness cruise that's actually there poisoning everyone, this was great. But for a cult, I didn't get it. And on the runway, I loved the silliness of this deer mask that was kind of yassified, holding on to this big thick coat that had the tire marks on the back. Like, that was such high levels of camp. But then the red dress underneath was definitely giving I already owned this. I wanted to wear it and I didn't know what else to wear with this costume. And I think there's something to say about wearing things you've already owned. I think that's fine. It's all in how you present it and style it, and I just don't think that a mermaid skirt, red sparkle dress was the right move for something like this. I think it would have been much more effective if the costume underneath almost looked more like flesh, and it was a bodysuit that had the flesh lines on it. Maybe it was rhinestone to filth, because I'm guessing that the red was supposed to be like the interior of the deer's body after it had been splayed out on the ground. And I'm here for that idea of gore and wanting to present gore in that manner. It didn't punch me in the throat, and I needed it to, so it was kind of a soft chop for me. And for our last group, for Golden Gaze, we have Dulce and Caramilk together. They are both our cruise directors. I thought they were equally funny. They carried each other through the challenge and balanced each other's energies in an interesting way. I loved seeing Dulce present more confidently, being a lot more charismatic, but on the runway, her La Llorona look to me was not quite the moment. She was giving a great performance, which I loved, and I enjoyed the black tears. I think for me, I didn't love the cut of the dress, and I agreed with Brooke, and I wrote it down in my notes that it just wasn't reading bridal to me, and I liked the materials used, just not necessarily the execution of them. And while I enjoyed the graphicness of that black piping, I think it probably could have been applied in a different way. And certainly some of the shapes of the bust could have been adjusted, maybe a little more sweetheart rather than a straight neckline. I didn't totally love the sculpting of the sleeves. So it was a soft slay because I liked the concept and I liked the performance. I just think it could have been tweaked a bit. And it was on theme. Caramilk was everything that I needed her to be. She was great paired up with Dulce. And on the runway, I'm gonna need someone to get Mr. Puerto Rico on the horn. I'm gonna need him to watch this episode, see what Caramilk did, and understand that this is how you do a bat on a runway. This bat was badass. The booty was poppin'. I loved the rhinestone veins of the wings. It was so graphic and interesting. It looked like it popped out of a comic book. And for me, it blew me out of the water because I was not expecting this level of commitment to something outside of glamour. I didn't know what to expect from Caramilk, but I thought maybe we would just get glam. And I was so glad to see something outside of that box and so far left of what my expectations were. I really think that she deserved a top placement. And we have Star and Maya together in the challenge, which I think their energy was good, but Maya kind of took a back seat. I almost didn't notice her through most of the challenge, so I don't have a lot to say about her. Stardoll really took the reins in that group. On the runway, she's a demon behind the mirror, which I thought was very much a simplistic idea that had a lot of good intention. The problem for me was the presentation because she kept hiding behind that mirror almost as if she just didn't want to be seen, not because the performance didn't want her to be seen, maybe because she was not feeling so good about the challenge. I don't know, but something was very reserved and restrained on the runway, and that was a bummer to see. She also really needed to lift the tulle above her head so that we could see her beautiful makeup and see more of that dress. The mug was fierce. I would have liked to have seen more of it unobscured. And I think the performance in general didn't allow me to connect with her. And I think that's unfortunate because this was an immaculately cut dress and it was kind of all presented in this boxy presentation. So it was a soft chop. Stardoll to me was so funny and one of the most watchable people in that group. Like, I would love to just watch an entire spin-off of Stardoll doing that character. Her twerking while on the walker was freaking hilarious. She was so comedy. She was pulling great faces. I loved her presentation and she just has this beautiful smile that I love. And on the runway, she is presenting a Filipino creature called the Aswang. I hope I said that right. Further proving to me that Pinoy queens just do it different because again, much like Caramilk, this was a extension of what I thought she was capable of doing. I thought we were just gonna get glam. I did not think that we were going to get a full commitment to like horror camp glam. The heels even had claws coming out of the front, and that's impressive to desecrate a pair of heels with something for a one-off runway that you're probably never gonna reuse ever again. Like, that is some drag race commitment. The movement and the presentation was one of my favorite parts. It was a complete slay. I think she easily could have been the winner of this challenge. Saltina is called as the winner and thusly has the golden beaver power. And it's announced that Sammy, Paolo, and Hazel are bottom 3. I guess Hazel was there by default, but personally, I probably would have put Maya in bottom 3 over Hazel because I think Hazel's performance in the challenge and on the runway were stronger than Maya's. I think Maya kind of disappeared in the challenge for me, and the runway presentation was very meek. I do think ultimately the right bottom 2 were there, even if it feels bad to see Sammy in the bottom 2 already. Sultina chooses to save Hazel, which I think was the right move. I've talked many times about the beaver format before. The inclusion of the beaver heavily creates an aura of social game within Drag Race. So how they play with each other and interact with each other, how they choose to foster relationships or let others go to the wayside, will actively play a hand in who gets saved week to week. So I cannot wait to see how this all plays out. The lip sync song is Raise a Little Hell, Sammy and Paolo, and boy howdy was it nuts. These are the 2 wackiest girls in the cast. I say in a very respectful way, this was the light side version of that dark-sided Sugar and Spice lip sync. Because let's face it, Sugar and Spice were both wackadoo girls. They were doing canned bits. You might say they were doing so many bits because they're so canned, but it was a wacky lip sync and it was dark-sided. But this was like the light-sided version of that. There were a lot of the same stunts happening, a lot of the same gimmicks happening, a lot of the same presentation happening, but in a what the hell am I watching? Why is this so entertaining manner? It was 2 chaotic ladies putting their joint slays together to create an explosion of what the effery. There was white lady twerking, there were slow splits, there were reveals and wig choices. Damn, that was nuts. And ultimately, Sammy has chosen to stay and Paolo is out. I think that Paolo has not been connecting with the camera and has not been breaking through in the way I think you really need to on Drag Race. That being said, a lot of people really stand this lady, so maybe I missed something, but I just don't think that she broke through in the way that a lot of these other girls are. And in a cast that is so full of charisma, you can't be even a little bit quiet because you're gonna get left in the dust. That being said, I think that Maya might be next out because she is very quiet. And I mean, other than that, I really don't know who's going to go next. The next challenge is set up pretty confusing. It's a choose your own adventure style snatch game and design. Are they maybe meant to create a character that they would do in snatch game and then do like a voiceover performance on the runway? Because that could be interesting. Or do they get to choose if they're going to do snatch game or the design challenge? And I commend them for always taking these big swings, and I just hope to God it's not a miss. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have the means, make sure to check out the Extravaganza Extra membership, which allows you to watch these posted videos a little bit earlier than everyone else. I will see y'all on the flip.